Knots are, well, they're integral to the outdoors, especially for shelters. Man, if you don't have your knots together, your shelter just isn't going to happen. This square knot. Yeah, trust me on this. And a lot of people struggle with tying this knot. Think of this knot as it kind of opposes itself. Now, the square knot is been used for centuries to take two ropes of equal diameter to make one longer rope. So you can see where you could use this on a ridge line. If you have from one tree to another and you don't have enough of one length, you could tie your two lengths together using this. Now, I don't really use the square knot for that. There's really only one application where I use the square knot, and I'm going to show that to you in a little bit. And when I first learned to use the square knot in this application, it blew my mind. It changed the way I do stuff outdoors. But before we get into all that, let's talk about tying it. Now, the way you tie it is the end that you start with is the end that you finish with. Now, you notice on my rope here, and I've only got one length of rope. As I said, you really wouldn't use this for one piece of rope. You use it for two different pieces. But just for the sake of what we're doing now, this is the way I mark mine for instruction, especially when I'm working with little ones. But there are even some of us older ones that we need all the help that we can get putting the cookies on the bottom shelf so we can reach them. So what you want to do is you want to start with your left or your right. It doesn't matter. Here I'm doing blue for left, red for right. And whether it's blue or it's left, I put that over top of the other one, over top of it, and I wrap it around. That's just an overhand knot. A lot of you know that as an overhand knot, and the overhand knot is the basis for a lot of other knots, in this case, the square knot. Now, I started with the blue, but now it's on the right side. So that's the one I started with, that's the one I want to finish with. I'm going to go over top with that one again. So I'm going over top both times, and I'm doing another overhand knot. And then I can pull it tight, and there, well, it's a rectangle, it's not really a square, but the way I can tell that I've tied it properly is I can do that with it. So I'm going to do that again. Blue is on the left, red is on the right. So one way you can think about it is you can think left over right and wrap it around, and then right over left and wrap it around. Oops, I did a granny knot. Let's try it again. So I'm going to do over top, wrap it around, over top, wrap it around. And there's my square knot. I figured out what I did for that mistake earlier is I did over for you and then over for me. And that's what's going to give you called that granny knot. And you can tell it's the granny knot because it's not symmetrical. It doesn't fit. It doesn't go back and forth the way the square knot did. Let me tie a square knot and I'm going to show you here. See how it's symmetrical? It's even from side to side. But if I tie that granny knot where I get mixed up, where I go over top and then over top from the same direction, it's going to do that granny knot and see how it binds up on itself. I don't know why they call it a granny knot. I certainly hope it wasn't for tying up grannies. Yeah, let's not think about that. Okay, so here's that square knot again. I'm going to start whatever side I start with. Let's start with this side this time just to prove my point. So I'm going to start here and I'm going to go over top and wrap around. And now the red is going to go over top again and wrap it around. So there we go. Okay, the application. It's an application you can start using today. In fact, you don't even need to be outside. You don't need to be going outside to do anything. You don't need to be in the wilderness for this knot to be helpful. Now, if you're like most people, when you tie your shoes, if you don't want them to come untied, you do that double knot thing. You do the double bow thing, and you pull it tight, and that holds it. That has some downsides to it. One is it's really hard to get that undone if you pull it super tight. You can't get it undone in a hurry. Now, why would you want to get your shoes untied in a hurry? Well, if, here in Florida, a bunch of fire ants get in my shoe. I want that shoe off in a hurry. Or you have a lot of dirt and sand that's gotten in there and you want to get it off. You've suffered some type of injury that requires you to get your shoe off in a hurry. Or it's just the end of the day and your dogs are barking. You'll want to get them off in a hurry. Using this square knot, and it's actually going to be a quick release square knot. Number one, it will hold. You don't need that double PO. I started tying my shoes this way, and the only time it's come untied when I didn't want it to is when I stepped on one side or the other and it pulled off. Now, you might think, well, even that's a bit of a hassle. Nah, if you're in that double bow and you step on that shoelace, you're probably going face first. You're going to face plant. If you use this knot, it's just going to untie and come loose, and you can just stop and tie it up. But I've never had it come untied unintentionally. I'm going to flip the camera around and show you exactly what I'm talking about. So this is the way you tie it. The same way you did your square knot with the rope, you're going to take one side, in this case, I'm going to start with this side, and it's going to go over top. Wrap it around and pull my overhand knot tight. Now I'm going to make 2 bites. Remember, bite is just when I double the rope or the cordage back in on itself. It's not making a loop. That's a loop. A bite is just when I make 2 doubles back on itself. And I started with this side, so now I want to end with this side. I'm going to wrap that around in an overhand knot, feed it back through, and pull it tight. And if I pull that tight, it is not going to come loose. Now, the one way this will bind up on you is if one of these ends gets fed through the loop. And of course, if I pull this side, you can see where it's going to get bound up there. So when you untie it, just make sure to grab both sides. That way you know that they're not there. I'm going to do it one more time for you, and I'm going to come from the other side. Just to show you, you can go either direction. So this time I started from over here. So now I'm going to finish from over here. Come around and tie it. And it lays nice and tight. Won't come loose until I want it to. So there it is, the lowly square knot, a knot that you can use every single day in a whole bunch of different settings. Get out and use it this weekend. You're going out this weekend, right? Use this new knot. Tie your shoes with it, tie your boots with it, tie your running shoes with it. Whatever you're going to do, get outside, enjoy the outdoors. Thanks for joining me for another Wilderness Wednesday.